Well, hello everyone, this is Passek, the FlyFish Fanatic, and welcome to my tying bench. Today, part three, right there, part three of the tying swap with Lindsay Simpson out of the UK. This one is, I think it's a kind of a variation of a blue flash damsel, at least that's how I look at it. I don't think that's actually what it is, but it's a really cool little pattern. I think it would work really well here in North America and in BC as a searching pattern. It's kind of a wet fly. Yeah, you'll see as we go. Great fly by the looks of it, but yeah, so let's get started. So in the vise, we have a Rex 581 in a size 8, FW 581. For the thread, I'm going to be using some Semperfli Classic Waxed in 12-aught olive. For now, if I had this in 8-aught, I'd use that, but I don't. So just to get a little bit more of that pull, so hopefully I don't break the thread as I go. For the tail, I'll be using some olive marabou. For the flash in the tail, which he doesn't put in, I'll put in a little bit of Gala blend, Gala and green from Semperfli. Just a little bit of flash, tiny bit, just like 1 or 2 strands on either side. That's it. And then this is something I've never heard of in North America here. Maybe I'm just, I just haven't heard it. I don't know. But he calls them runners, and they're little extra little hot spot kind of parts in the tail. He used Globe-Rite number 5. I don't have Globe-Rite number 5, so I'm going to use just a little bit of, his is kind of more of a brownie orange, but I'm going to use a little bit of orange predator fiber as that little hot spot. You'll see as we go. For the body, I'm going to use some hair dubbing plus, my favorite dubbing. I'm going to use the olive right there, the one that's sticking out. Sorry. Got a frog in my throat this morning. Then I'm going to use some iris blue mirror tinsel. I practiced a couple of them. I was using a gold one because I thought it would look really cool, but I think the blue is really important in this. It really stands out when you see his, and there'll be a picture of this of his at the beginning. I think you already saw it as I'm recording it. Obviously, it's not there yet. And you'll see why it really stands out. So I'm going to try it with the blue and see. And then for the front, I'm going to use a tiny bit for one collar, just a tiny bit of Hen's CDC as an under collar. Can't believe I got this frog. Of course I do when I'm doing a video. And then for the front, I'm going to be using a piece of Hungarian partridge. Just one feather from the breast. Alrighty. I'll try not to talk too much because, yeah, my throat. I don't know why it's all gummed up. Usually I get that when I drink too much milk in my coffee and stuff, but I didn't have that today, so I don't know. We'll see. So, started my thread to the back. Just going to come back forward to about there. I want to leave a little bit of room because I want to build a nice little tidy head on this one. I'm going to wax my thread because I want my the marabou to really stick well here. And I take my marabou, and as I always do, I stroke it out. Actually, I'm going to just, stroke it out, and I'm going to tear it off one side and fold it in. Tear it off one side and fold it in. Tear it off one side and fold it in, and one more time, just a little bit. And that's, if I take a look, that's usually about 2 to 3 fingers width on coming off of the feather, right? So, ready? And now that I got that little bundle, just gonna match it up. I want it about there, yeah, about there. So I'm going to cut that off. Cut off all this under fluff. As I've said in the other 2 videos, guys, if you haven't checked out Lindsay Simpson, you absolutely have to. I consider Lindsay one of the better tyers around. his not only his tying itself, the information he gives while he's tying, and his ingenuity on how he ties things and what he comes up with. You really need to check him out. I put him up there with the top tyers. So now that's a fairly long tail. I could leave it long because I could always clip it out in the field, but I'm just gonna give that a bit of a rip. Do not, as you've seen in all of my videos, do not ever cut your tail material. It's not. There's nothing in nature is straight. So yeah, I'm just gonna see if I can move my camera ever so little, just that way to center this a bit more. There we go. So nothing in nature is straight. So don't cut. So now I'm gonna take my one strand here and I'm gonna double it over of that Gala and green mix. And I'm just gonna have it so it sticks a little bit past on my side. So you can see that it's just sticking a little bit past. I don't care if it's in a loop. I'm gonna end up cutting it anyway. And just get that started on my side. Make sure it stays right on my side. And then I'm going to flip this over so I can see and bring it over to your side. And you'll see it once I've come over. So now you see it's on your side, right? And then just give that a bit of a tug up. And I'm going to cut it ever so slightly longer than the longest fiber. And that's about it. Just a couple on either side. That's it. Really simple. Okay. So now this is the part that I was talking about, these runners. Like I said, I've never, ever heard of it. Maybe it's something it's a translation thing or thing in the UK. But it's basically, they're just going to be little hot spots that are going to get tied right in the side here. So I'm just going to tie that in. It's way too long right now. And then I'm going to just come forward, a couple of wraps, and bring it over to your side. I'm going to have to turn it again, so I want this right in the middle of the body, right? So okay, just get that. Oh, sorry guys. Keep turning this on you. There we go. So now that's what he calls in his recipe a runner. Now, I'm going to just cut that quite a bit shorter. So I'm going to grab all that orange and cut it about there. And then come to my other side and do the same thing. Sorry, my fingers are all in the way all the time here, but so if you take a look in the picture at the beginning of it, you'll see that they're kind of brownish, rust colored in his. So they're just a tad different. But I thought that this orange would be a decent little substitute. So now, I'm going to take that blue flash, Mirage flash, come back forward. This is the reason you come back forward all the time, guys, just to keep your body fairly symmetrical. Now, it's not going to matter too much here because I'm going to put dubbing in and you really won't see it. That it's not, because I can make that up with the dubbing, right? With the thickness if it's a little off. So I've just waxed my thread a little bit. Get my favorite dubbing. I love this stuff, guys. It's just so, it's spiky and it's soft and it's sparkly and it's just everything you want in a dubbing, right? So I know I keep talking about it all the time, and I am pro team now with hens, but I was boasting about how much I love this stuff way before I became pro team, like for years. This is I think this is one of the biggest home runs in fly tying. I just love this stuff. So now I'm just going to build a nice fluffy body, not too crazy fluffy, and try to make it straight. So there was that little bit of a hump in the back from tying in those runners. So now I'm just I just made that up by with the dubbing, right? Now I can make it a little bit thicker here in the front as I go. And as the way I tie, and most tyers that I know do, is less is more when you're putting dubbing on. Don't You can always put more dubbing back on, right? So just do little batches. Now I'm going to put a little bit more here because for the next part, I want to build just a little bit of a bulge here, just right there, a little bit of a sharp edge to help hold out that CDC. Now I'm just going to give this a couple of 3 to 4 maximum turns. Oh, I'm going to get that to go all the way around. That bulge that I created is creating a bit of a problem, but I need that bulge. You won't see that last little bit here anyway. So, but so that's out of the way. That one little piece of flash on your side does not want to cooperate. It keeps wanting to fall back down, but that's okay. Once it gets wet, it'll stay where it needs to stay anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to I've already prepped my CDC. I've already got it in a little material clip here. And now I'm going to wax my thread well, because I want that CDC to fall up. And there it breaks my thread. That's why, because it got wrapped on my bodkin. But stuff happens, right? Even though this is a fly tying trade, if you want to call it, or swap with Lindsay, I still am not going to take not taking my errors out. I think it's important for everybody, especially new tyers, to see that everybody makes mistakes or has issues. This is not a mistake. This was an issue and wrapped around my bob. But it's how can you fix it, right? So not a big deal. Don't panic. Let your leave your fly alone. Don't panic that it's gonna fall apart. You can come right back in there and get a hold of that, and you're back to where you were. No harm, no foul. Now this wrapped around here. That was the piece that. Okay, so back to normal. Now I'm done to double check my bob, and it looks like it's coming out of the side. There we go. Because it was feeling like it was going to break again. So, alrighty. Wish this was going a little smoother, but oh well, it's the way it is. So now, nice big dubbing loop, so you can grab onto it, go over top, come back to the front. Now that my piece broke off, I'm just going to make sure I get waxed. Put my little dubbing spinner on. I'm just going to use my simple one. For some reason, the nice one from Stonefo, it's a 2-piece, and so you can take it apart. But when I'm spinning it keeps falling apart on me, and I've tried waxing. I've tried a few things. I'm going to have to contact Stonefo and find out if there's something else I can do, or if they can send me another one or something. You don't want a lot of CDC here, just a little bit. So I'm pinching my thread, give that a spin, and then I slowly let it go so it spins up. And then one more time, so it spins up. You don't want to go too much. Again, this is not a GSP or a nano silk, so you want to make sure that this doesn't break. Now you're going to stroke all that back and stroke all that back. You just want the odd little fiber going back. There's, in my opinion, of why this is done in this pattern, is it adds a little bit of bulk for helping the front collar stay out, but it also will grab little bubbles of air. That's just the way CDC works. And it'll give a little bit of a shine in there, right? You won't really see it much, but so now I've already prepped a little feather. Now, if I had one that was, this one's got a little bit of yellow in his chest, but it's the only one I have. I don't have a cape anymore. So otherwise it'd be a little bit more white and black speckle, but, and depending how thick you want your dressing, you can peel off the leading edge, and I'm going to see how easy that is with this one, because if it comes off decently, that's what I'm going to do, is peel off that leading edge so I don't have quite as much of the partridge. So now let's see if I can do it without ripping it. I want to peel off this leading edge of the material here. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to grab it. This just gives me half the amount. And for this, like I said, I've practiced on a few, and I found that the ones I did were overdressed with the feathers I have on hand, right? So 2, 3 on top, and a couple in front to lock it. Let it go. Hold that back. Nip off my stem. Okay. Stroke that back a bit. Now I'm going to build myself a nice tidy little head. Now, Lindsay and his did a little red hot spot. Like his head was red. And I think that's great. I love little hot spots, but I think, in my opinion, having 2 hot spots is kind of counterintuitive. You've got one at the back already with those runners. So now the fish don't know which end to hit if you've got a red hot spot in the front and a red hot spot or whatever in the back. So now maybe with his, because that glow bright isn't so standout, it's not really as much of a hot spot as mine is here. So maybe it's better. But I figured I'm not going to put another hot spot at the front. So just tighten that up. And then I'll just hit that with a little bit of Sally's later. I won't do it now on camera, just because it's a little bit finicky, but that is it. That is the final product. So when this gets wet, that'll slick back nicely, and it'll pulsate, and you'll see that little blue through it, and you'll get that little flash from the tail, which is not cooperating at all, that one. Whatever. It's much nicer on my side, see? But yeah, that's the finished product. And like I said, you can compare it to Lindsay's at the front. Make sure you stay tuned at the end here, because Lindsay and I talk about how I tied it compared to how he tied it, and why he tied it the way he does with the runners and the hot spot and all that stuff. We discuss that, and we have a little bit of a chat. So as we did in our first 2. So alrighty. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really enjoyed this little tying challenge, whatever you want to call it, with Lindsay. I'll make sure to share all of the ones that he's done that I sent him. I sent him my BBL, my bloodbath leech, and my hover dragon, and I can't remember what the third one was. Of course I can't. But yeah, those I sent him those. So it was really interesting, his interpretation of what I did, and I hope he's feels the same about how I did with his. And I'm not happy with that tail. That's really bugging me that one piece of flash keeps folding down there, but that's okay, whatever. So, alrighty. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Tie lines, everyone. All right, everyone. The last and final week 3 here, the last fly, and this is a Lindsay's kind of a variation on a blue flash damsel, kind of, and love tying this one too. I tie a ton of this style of attractor leech wet fly type pattern. I tie so many different ones, and I just love it. And I do have some questions for Lindsay on this one though. So let's first see what he thought of my variation. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I wasn't, the only thing I wasn't sure, so and I think it's because you probably haven't heard the term runners, and you used quite a lot of orange. Was it Antron or?
It was predator fiber because I don't have Globrite,
Yeah.
so I had to find something that I thought would kind of be.
When you were tying it in, I was thinking you need about a quarter of what you're tying in there.
There you go.
Because the idea of the runner is that it is going to flow with the tail, and it's just the color variation. That the fly itself, I know you were asking some questions about it. It's so the original Damsel fly, if you like. I always call it Ronnie's Damsel, who was the guy that introduced me to fly fishing, but I've since found out it was a friend of his called Charlie Will that had come up with this fly, but Ronnie grabbed the glory, if you like, and then to Ronnie's fly, I added a blue rib, and that just worked great. And it was a blue rib fly with a partridge hackle at the front and a red head, and it was a deadly fly. For this is 30 years ago. I don't fish it so much nowadays, actually, but it never used to be off my cast. And then I was fishing with a chap at Buell called Adrian Nisi, who is one of the most phenomenal anglers I've ever come across. These natural guys. I mean, I've had to work really hard at my fishing because I'm not naturally gifted. It's like same as the fly tying. I've got to work really hard at it. Whereas you meet these people, they're just naturally gifted. And Adrian was one of these chaps. He was absolutely an amazing shotgun. He was fantastic at plays and stuff like that as well. He was just a gifted sports guy, if you like. And he showed me a fly, and it was tied on a double hook. And it had these two orange Globrite runners, very similar to mine, but I don't think he used partridge at the front, and it was a blackhead, but it was these glow runners. And then I just added that to the various other incarnations of the Damsel, if you like. Which, is it any more effective? Probably not. If I'm honest, has it made a difference? I think a lot of the time it's up here, isn't it? You're in the
confidence. It's a confidence thing. I got confidence in it.
Even if you go fishing with a buddy, and you're fishing away, and he's catching fish, and he'll say, "I'm fishing a damsel," and you've got a damsel that works perfectly well, but you're not catching fish. And that could be because he's at the right end of the boat and you're just not covering them, or it could be he's at a different depth. It could be a multitude of things. Very rarely will it be the flies fishing, but you'll still reach across and take one off them because that's what we do, isn't it? Well, give me one of them ones that's working. It's nonsense. And I think, competition's taught me that. That's nonsense. What he's fishing is no better than what I'm fishing. He's just doing something slightly different, or he's at the right end of the boat. He won't be the next drift. I'll push him right off them fish.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I think it's got a lot more to do with retrieve style or speed and fly line type and location than it does the fly itself. I did have a question though. Like what like the runners, they're supposed to be like a hot spot almost, right? Like
I would guess, yeah. It's something that's going to bring the fish in.
Correct. So now this is something I was taught by one of our competition fishermen. He was actually the captain for Team Canada in Bosnia, Herzegovina, and a few other places when they went over. Gary Hankey, I think you've talked to him. And he's always taught me, don't put dual hotspots on. And you do exactly that in this. You put the red,
Oh, I'll
red
have
head.
3 or 4 times.
Sorry?
I'll have 3 or 4 hot spots in a fly.
Okay.
Yeah,
See, he
I,
always taught me not to put one in the front and one in the back. And you had your red head and then these runners, right? So it confused.
yeah.
How he explained it to me was that it confuses the fish on what end to hit. And I was like, I always thought that was a little bit of poppycock myself. I thought, I mean, the hot spot's a hot spot.
Well, I don't know.
Get the fish in.
In your competitions, Rick, do you have a size restriction?
Yes.
So ours is 16/18 of an inch. It's that size.
Yeah.
If a fish is hitting your fly, it doesn't matter where it's hitting it, you're catching it. You know, because the hooks.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, we don't
that's
have
true. Even
long tail flies.
Yeah.
So
no,
anything
right.
that's going to bring that fish in is good in my book.
Yeah, and the other thing I did is on my practice ones I did here, I actually did exactly what you were talking about earlier, and I didn't use the blue flash. I kind of used, I don't know if you can see that, but I got a copper rib in there instead of a blue rib, and I thought that'll work in my waters very well. The copper instead of the blue. Now the blue is I mean, the blue flash damsel on that little bit of blue in these these woolly bugger style, whatever you want to call them, is deadly. I mean, I started using blue probably about 15 years ago, and it's deadly. But I thought, I'm going to play with it. But in the end, when I actually tied yours for the video, I thought, I better stick a little bit closer, because I think that blue, like you said, with my comp killer to buy it, I think the blue is one of those core pieces of this fly.
Yeah, I think I've tried it with red. It's not nearly as effective, but I go back to what I've just said. It's probably all up here. You know, it's a confidence thing. You've tied a fly, it's working. Oh, I've put a red rib, I'm not catching as many fish. But is it just because the fishing that day wasn't quite as good, or, you know, it could be any number of variables. But I kind of, for all the flies I tie, Rick, I don't fish very many variations. I kind of stick to what I know that's going to work, you know, buzzers, crunchers. But it's always nice to see how other people would, you know, like you've said, oh, the copper's it'll work here. I would tie that and not be confident, because it's not got my blue rib, and it's. I think it boils down to confidence.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. Like you did with the hover dragon that I sent you. You changed it to the point where it's more of a tractor searching mayfly, dragonfly, damselfly, a little bit of everything. I think I'd have more confidence in mine because I've caught so many fish on mine.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those, like you said, it's a memory thing. You fish memories, right? And it's a terrible thing, fishing memories, right? But it is what it is. So
absolutely.
Alrighty, Lindsay. Well, thank you very much for this. I had an absolute blast. I hope your viewers enjoy my interpretations, and hope your viewers enjoy my flies and your interpretations of my flies. I think this was a really fun little experiment, and maybe we can do it again in whatever, 6 months or a year, and try it again and play around. I think it's a great thing.
It's been a lot of fun, and I think I said to you earlier before we started that actually when you tie a lot, and I tie a lot, it's just great to get some inspiration from other tyers. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
No, and thank you. It's like I said, I've been a big fan of yours for quite a while. I love your videos, love the way you do stuff, love the way you teach. And like I told you outside of these recordings, I've really become a fan of British style flies. That's something different than what we have here. And I'm actually going to be there's a trade show here in March in BC, and I'm actually going to be one of the featured tyers on stage. And my subject is going to be British flies. So I'm going to be doing some dowders, crunchers, snatchers, right? So once again, thank you very much. I had an absolute blast in this series, and hope we can do it again. And tight lines to all your viewers.
And thank you. And you, Rick. Take care, mate. Bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.